Hi, welcome to another great episode of You Didn't Get the Memo. I'm your host, Gloria Bailey Ray, and I am excited that you decided to join us today. We have a great show as always. I have with us today Oloyo Tihamba Ford, also known as Queen Mother. So you hear me referring back and forth to her as Queen Mother. That is her title. And we're going to be discussing women's health, the role of a midwife. She's a holistic and spiritual practitioner. She's a midwife. She's a monitress, a doula, holding numerous degrees and certifications in nursing, birth work, and coaching. Now, her classical training is in nursing, in midwifery with a specialty. Now, get this, y'all, with a specialty in fertility and infertility. She's the co-founder of the Kepra Holistic Institute and the co-creator of the Kepra Transformational Platform, both which are dedicated to complete wellness through holistic, indigenous, and naturopathic modalities. Queen Mother also offers workshops, so you guys want to get in on this, in self-love, self-care retreats, birthing ceremonies, and rites of passages. She's a mother of 5, ranging from the mid-30s to preteens, and she's a grandmother of 1. So I'd like to welcome to the show, You Didn't Get the Memo. Welcome, Queen Mother. How are you?
Thank you. I'm so blessed to be here today. And hello to everybody out there. I am excited, very much so.
Well, we're going to have a great discussion, and I'm just going to jump right in because always, as a woman, concerned about women's health care and things that we need to know. And so I wanted to start with asking you to discuss your background. I gave your intro, but, in particular, tell us why and how you got into, the midwifery part of it. What was it that made you to just kind of say, okay, I got an RN degree, but I want to take it a step further. So would you share that with our viewers?
I am from upstate New York. Syracuse, New York is where I was raised. And I didn't know what I wanted to do like most people when they graduated. I am blessed to have a illness called sickle cell anemia. And I was dealing with that most of my life and still am. And I just didn't know what I wanted to do. And my parents were very cloistered with me and finally allowed me to go to college. I graduated from high school early. And I ended up at Syracuse University in their nursing program. And then my father allowed me to go outside of Syracuse, and I ended up at Alfred University, who actually has a wonderful nursing program. And at that time, midwifery was just being introduced, I guess, or reintroduced, because as we know, as people of color, we've been midwives since the beginning of time. So I did get into their program, got married very young, ended up traveling, and then ended up in Seattle, where I also went to Bastyr University. I worked there. They have a fantastic naturopathic and holistic midwifery program. And I did a lot of work with them and eventually ended up getting my CNM. I am now semi-retired from the midwifery, which is why I claim the title as a monitress and work as a monitress now in the Bay Area.
Okay. All right. Well, I had questions because, first of all, I want to know all of these titles and what differentiates, a doula from a monitress, and talk about in terms of a midwife. So let's just start with, first of all, the role overall Reader's Digest version of the scope of a midwife, because you guys do a little bit more than just kind of licking some ears
Right.
or throats, right?
We
Although
do.
I come from a background of, and what I knew for years, in the South is, midwives. So talk a little bit about the role of a midwife, and do you have to be licensed as a midwife?
Okay, so as African Americans, as descendants from Africa and people of color in general, we've always had Big Mama. You know, we have always had that woman in our community who went from house to house, not only birthing babies, but taking care of everybody in the house and oftentimes even the animals. I was very fascinated with that, that we were more than just a nurse. As I was coming up in the 80s and 90s, midwifery was just kind of getting its notoriety again. It became it became a fad almost at that time. And of course, our government started really regulating the degrees of a midwife. It took quite a while, I will say, and we still have lay midwives, and that's what I'm going to call them. To this day, great grandmother is still doing her stuff in her community, whether it's under the table or not. But our society has really put limitations on getting certifications. And it's caused a problem within our own community because we can't afford all of these
Right.
costs of education. So, as I said, I am a certified nurse midwife. That means I have a BS in nursing, as well as midwifery, formal midwifery training.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I love the fact that you talk about Big Mama because I grew up with, that's right, I had a grandmother, but I had a Big Mama. And
Hmm.
Big Mama, like you said, the herbs and all of those things that now a lot of times people are so willing to just, slap a pill on it, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
there's a holistic way to look at that. And that's what Big Mamas did, right?
Right.
Everything from cow chip tea, anybody out there listening know about what that is.
Castor oil.
I mean,
Uh-huh.
my husband and I are laughing about the fact that things like the 3 6s and, those kinds of things. Castor oil was very popular in my day coming up. Then a
Yeah.
lot of things that people deal with today has a lot to do with, how they don't take care of good health care. But going back to what you were saying, and how the government started to regulate
Mhm.
what it was that midwives do. But you in particular, you have a specialty area that you focus on. And
Mhm.
so that's one of the meat. I see that we already have a couple of comments that come in, and people are looking forward to hearing about, this particular topic. So I'm just going to kind of jump around
That's fine.
because as a midwife, let's talk about the infertility piece as
Mhm.
relates to women who are wanting to, get pregnant, have children. But
Mhm.
there are some things, and one thing in particular that sticks out for me, there could be more, but I think about what is defined as PCOS, polycystic ovarian
Mhm.
syndrome. And there are so many women, especially women of color, that have this issue. And so, can we talk a little bit about how that impacts what happens to women who are in childbearing years, and I guess even younger than that, because children, young people are having sex, they're more sexually active at
Mhm.
an even younger age, and it predisposes them, I think, to certain things that will come back to kind of bite them later on in life. So what are
Mhm.
your thoughts about PCOS and women, because it affects, according to statistics, about 1 in 10 women of childbearing age?
Right. So I'm going to back up a minute.
Okay.
You asked about three questions there. I'm gonna,
I'm
but
good for
I'm
that.
following you. I'm not Aquarian. I
Okay,
can
good,
flow. I
good.
can flow.
All right.
So, first of all, my specialty is in infertility and infertility. And one of the reasons why is because I'm a same gender loving person who wanted children very young. And I was very picky about my sperm. I'm just going to be upfront about it and realized that, and I needed to find a different way or an alternative way of having a family. So I started working at North Carolina Center for Reproductive Medicine, where I worked for a couple of years, and was introduced to their art program, assisted reproduction, uh, technology program, and fell in love with it. Fell in love with it. And I got to meet people from all over the world, women from all over the world, um, birthing people from all over the world. And I'm going to say a disclaimer for those um, that feel that I'm not using the right pronouns. Pray for me, write me, and tell me what I should do, but don't yell at me because I'm learning. Um, so, one of the things that became very prominent, especially in people of color and in income challenged people, were the different forms of infertility that directly affected us. Polycystic ovarian syndrome, PCOS, oftentimes PCOD, polycystic ovarian disease, is one of them. Um, it is one of the greatest forms of conception issues, especially in our community as people of color, that we have. PCOS as well as pelvic inflammatory disease, PID. PCOS is a hormonal disorder, and it's caused by the androgen levels that are too elevated. Okay. Now, one of the things that we don't realize is that part of PCOS deals with an insulin resistant um, form. There are four types of PCOS: insulin resistance, inflammatory, drug induced, and that means medication and not necessarily recreational drugs. And then there's kind of the X factor, the unknown factor. Most women of color have insulin resistance and inflammatory PCOS, where our ovaries can develop follicles. Um, we often have irregular periods, which also causes failure in egg production or in releasing the eggs. Oftentimes, we have weight issues. Our society that we live in likes to call it obesity, not taking into account for our large bones. Um, Oftentimes, we have excessive hair growth on our face and on our body. Fatigue and mood swings are very common side effects. Acne, and of course, infertility.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And when we talk about PCOS, now this is treatable. Is this correct?
PCOS is not curable,
Not
but
curable, but
but it
treatable.
is treatable.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
Thank you
and
for
yes,
making, for clarifying that. Absolutely.
yes, and um, the largest form of treatment is lifestyle changes. We have to start making them, and not just for PCOS, but just in general.
Yeah. Yeah.
But nutrition and losing weight, making sure that we are
Hmm.
5 to 8% of our body weight.
Hmm.
Um, and even if that is a hard goal to reach, changing your habits of eating, limit your carbohydrates, physical activity, moving, just getting up and moving. And
Right.
during COVID, I understand that it's hard, but you know what? If you're sitting there watching television, turn it to something where you're dancing,
Right.
you
Right.
know, just moving and being physical, um, a positive way of releasing stress.
Right. And one of the things I do want to underscore is this. People talk about COVID, even though they tell you to be safe and safely distanced, there is nothing that says that you can't get outside and exercise. You
Mhm.
can't walk around the block. You can't walk in a park. You can't. I mean, so to me, we have to stop with some of the excuses that what COVID has done, because, like you said, if you look at it, what this actually will do for you, and especially for those women who are really serious about wanting to get pregnant, these are certain things that you must do. You've got to do. And as much as people say you can't, that old saying with the train, if you say you can't, then you won't. But if you say I think I can, you will. And
Mhm.
it's just that whole mindset. So we're not knocking anybody, but this is really, really important. Also, I want to touch on something else that you said. You talked about PID, pelvic inflammatory disease.
Mhm.
It's rampant. We see a lot of it, a lot of young women. I can just remember working in a hospital, and it blew my mind. You're a children's hospital, and you see these young girls that are there being treated for PID. And I just hope that we can underscore to those who don't realize. I love the way you said it. I was particular about, my sperm. Okay. But I do think that it's really, really important. And the pendulum has got to shift back, because at the end of the day, what you do right now to your body will impact you years later down the road. And then when you're really ready to have children and be in that relationship, and the things that you did that went untreated, it really has a profound effect. And so, thank you for just talking about that. But the irregular menstrual cycles, I don't think that we can say enough about this. Some women think that that's actually normal, to go, I have a period every 21 days. Some women stop having periods altogether. They'll go for months. That's not normal.
No, it's not, Gloria. One of the things that we can do for tomorrow, because we can't change yesterday,
right?
But one of the things that we can do for tomorrow is to start talking to our children early and be honest and open. Use real words, and talk to our children.
Yes.
Yeah, use real words. Use big adult words, and stop talking to our children and hiding things from them about sex. And it's not about how to have sex. Oh, they know how to have sex.
Or they think they do.
Or they think they do. They think they do because, it takes past 30 for you to actually know what you're doing,
Right.
But we can teach them the other side of sex, not the scary, because that's what we do. That's what was done to us, Right. I mean, you couldn't even masturbate or you're going to go blind, right. Just all kinds of crap,
Right.
And so then when we got out there and realized, well, my eyesight is just fine, we went buck wild. Okay. And you could see STDs go up, you could see when we were really into our love and light days, STDs went up.
Right.
And it's about educating our children. We need to talk to them, and we need to talk to them, and not just the girls, the boys too. They need to know that STD does not favor gender, and for women or birthing persons, it can have an effect on your fertility rate and whether you're going to have a family in a more natural way than not.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a question that one of the viewers just posed, PID versus HPV in relation to infertility. So I don't know if that's, one that you want to take, because I was going to say, if you'll hold on, we're going to go to commercial. And when we come back, we'll address that. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. Don't go anywhere.
Because the fight isn't over yet.
You will see me choose to protect my community by wearing a face cover.
And even with my face covered,
you will see me.
As a son.
As a man with a never quit attitude.
As a fighter for change.
Join me in wearing a face cover.
To help stop the spread of the coronavirus.
Because this is one small act of kindness
that has the power to make a big difference.
1 in 3 adults has pre-diabetes. That means it could be you, your favorite brother, your other brother, you, your football buddy, your football buddy, you, your plumber.
Breathe right into your foot.
Your plumber's masseuse.
Yes.
You, your dog walker, your cat jogger. With early diagnosis, pre-diabetes can be reversed. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Hi, if you're just tuning in to You Didn't Get the Memo, we have a great guest here with Aloyo Tahimba Ford, aka Queen Mother, and we're actually talking about women's health, the role of a midwife, and she's been sharing with us a number of things that she does as a midwife, what midwives actually do. So before we went to break, we actually had a question from someone in that is tuned in, and they were asking about, I guess, PID versus HPV, which is, I think that they're asking about the human papilloma virus in relation to infertility. And so any thoughts, Queen Mother, that you want to share around, because I would say that both go untreated, that there are serious consequences that, one can actually look at happening to them.
Right. Yes, most definitely. So one of the main differences between HPV and PID, which is pelvic inflammatory disease, is that HPV can assist in you getting PID and not the other way around. They both are very serious. Most often, because of it's considered a sexually transmitted disease. However, I do want to state that you can have PID and HPV without it being a sexually transmitted disease. And it can cause serious infertility issues, both of them, from ectopic pregnancies to damage of the reproductive organs because of scar tissue and serious infection that has damaged your cervix, your urethra, and other properties of your reproductive organs. Chronic pelvic pain is a major concern. Fissures and sores and that pus and open up and get more infected. So it's just an ongoing thing. It must be treated. And the problem is that oftentimes we don't get symptoms until it's really bad.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So it's important, going back to what you said before we went to break, that parents, adults, you talk to your children about sex. Like you said, it's not about telling them how to have sex, but it's telling them, the pitfalls that are out there that they have to be aware of. One of the things that we didn't cover is, when we were talking earlier, is also women who develop multiple cysts. That can also be a barrier to women being able to get pregnant as well. And I don't know about anybody out there, if you've ever had a cyst on your ovaries that has burst, that is some of the worst pain that you will ever probably experience, short of childbirth, I would think.
It is. And I can't, again, we are so used to being afraid to talk about down there. Down there.
Right. What does that mean?
Okay. Well, you know what? Down there has got a whole life of its own.
Yes.
And if you don't communicate, one, your doctor doesn't know. If you don't communicate, your child, your daughter or your son won't know to tell you, you know what, I'm going to the bathroom a lot. And it's not stinging, but it feels kind of funny. Because they know if something stings, then you really better get it checked. You're talking chlamydia or gonorrhea or syphilis. That's the main three that everybody is afraid of. But it just may feel funny. You may have problems, pain during intercourse, stomach issues, or almost all women of color get heavier vaginal discharge. That may smell a little bit more or stronger than it usually does, whatever your norm is. And we don't tell anybody because we're afraid to tell anybody. And the youth are dealing with these issues more so than those of us that are 45 and above, because now we've all gone to the doctors and trying to figure out why we can't get pregnant. They're not into the wanting to get pregnant yet. So they're just letting these symptoms just go on and on, thinking a little penicillin is going to handle it, some monostat, and it's not working.
Right. Absolutely. And one of the things that I think that we should underscore is that usually the male will get symptoms much earlier on than a woman. She can go untreated. That's why I think here, I know in the state of California, probably across the US, for any woman that's pregnant, that it's mandatory that they actually have, a test for testing for various STDs, especially if you got gonorrhea, syphilis, which could cause the baby to be born blind, along with some other things. But for women who don't realize or may not be as in tune, maybe as you or I or other women watching the show, is to their body and realizing, I just don't feel right. In my vaginal area, something's not right. And we've got to teach our children to tune in to that and to be aware, not be afraid to come and say, because if you don't know what's going on, then how else the doctor's not going to know. You go and they're going to ask you, but what type of symptoms are you having, right? So I think that it's really, really important that we underscore the fact that women, and that's the need to understand and underscore at this point, having unprotected sex is just not cool.
Right.
It is just not cool. Besides saying that you don't want to have a child, but look at all of the other things that we're talking about that could happen. And so if you guys are just tuning in, thank you so much. But we're here with Queen Mother, and we're talking about, women's health. And we've been on this right now. We're just talking about contracting STDs that will affect a woman's ability to get pregnant. And so, I'm going to shift from that and just talk, ask a lawyer if we'll talk about, first of all, what are some of the treatments that are available for women who do want to get pregnant?
Okay, well, first of all, you need to have a complete and total checkup, including reproductive wellness checkup. And every clinic, doctor, wherever you go, knows what that is. Okay. And your reproductive health checkup will, of course, test you for all kinds of things, including STDs, vaginal warts, things like that. Okay. And you'll know ahead of time what you have to deal with. They will also be able to tell you how good your eggs are, because just because you're young doesn't mean you have young eggs, And if you have been very sexual and have other things going on, it can affect the production of your eggs. So that is very, very important. If you do have a partner in mind, that partner needs to go and have a checkup as well. Male infertility is just as prevalent as female infertility. So they need to go to their doctor, say, look, me and my partner are thinking about, starting a family, make sure my sperm speed is good and all is well. And what do I need to do to take care of myself? The other very important thing, and this is where doulas come in hand, is find a person, a doula, a coach that you can talk to and you can communicate with, and that can help you with the process. And that is what a doula does. That's the difference between a midwife and a doula to a certain extent, is the doula does not have the medical education oftentimes, most of the time, but they do have a training, and their training is to be a support, emotional, physical, even oftentimes spiritual, to the birthing person and their family. They can help you figure out where you need to go, what your options are, help you explain the terminologies that the doctors are using, and give you guidance on possible options for your next choice.
Okay. Well, one of the things that I love hearing you talk about is, first of all, I think that it really and truly is important that you do. Now you're talking a mature way of approaching getting pregnant. My partner and I are thinking about, and you're absolutely right. And so, women, when you find that you aren't able to conceive, it's not always on your end. And that is something that's important. And I love the way that you encapsulated your eggs. They're not always, young, fresh eggs, right? The older you are, and that you wait to try and get pregnant, a lot of times it just doesn't happen. This doesn't magically happen like that. So thank you for definitely bringing that out. But since you're talking about that, let's backtrack a little bit, because you're talking about, I asked you about a midwife, but talk a little bit more about what a doula does and also what a monitress does, because I think that women want to know, and I love even just doing research in terms of what you yourself would do with a pregnant woman, and the type of care and compassion and the hands-on. And I just think that that is so important. And there may be people who are watching this that are saying, you know what, that's the kind of care that I need as I'm going through my pregnancy. So would you talk a little bit about that, please?
Oh, sure. So there are those midwives that are registered nurses and have a nursing degree, and then there's certified midwifery. The nursing degree midwives oftentimes work in hospitals, birthing centers, but they also do home births. The certified midwives, they may have a health-related background, not necessarily nursing, and then they get a master's in midwifery. They go to a dedicated midwifery program. They oftentimes work in birthing centers, clinics, and home births. Certified professional midwives, that's the most common midwife with a certification. And they have internships with other midwives. They have some medical background, and then they take a state regulated exam to get their midwifery certification. All of that to say, it's still up to you and who you vibe with when it comes to walking you through this process. Midwives differ from your average OB because they are more encompassing not only to your personal and individual needs, but to the needs of your family as well. A doula does not necessarily have any classical medical background, but they are trained, and oftentimes their training is in the support of the birthing person and their family. So they give advice, but they cannot diagnose. They help give you options, but they can't tell you what to do. The other thing that a doula does that I love is that oftentimes they are the go-between, especially during labor and delivery, where they already have experience with the birthing person and their family. So they already know the birth plan, and they can remind the medical staff, if it's a hospital birth, that this birth plan says this, that, and the other. Also, if there's an emergency or the doctor on duty is saying something that is different from what the birthing person or family members are used to, the doula says this is what they're saying. They can be a translator between the doctor and the birthing person. There are many types of doulas. There are fertility doulas that only deal with people trying to conceive and get pregnant. There are labor and delivery doulas who support the birthing person and their family during their pregnancy and up until delivery. And there's postpartum doulas who work with the birthing person and the baby after birth. So I think that answered that question.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And you're just giving people a choice, right? And understanding why they maybe need to look at a midwife and the different areas that they focus on. So I'm going to switch gears for a moment. because I also introduced you as a holistic practitioner. And so that to me, that goes back to that big mama statement that you made.
Yes, yes.
And
It was
so,
my big mama.
so let's talk a little bit about your role as a holistic practitioner.
Yes. Many different studies, studies of choice from herbalism to nutritional consulting. I personally love energy work. I work with a lot of the Kemetic and indigenous cultures, and I learned from them. I wanted to know what Big Ma had in that little dark amber glass bottle that she kept feeding everybody when they got worms and when they, kept them from getting parasites. Um, and so I studied with many indigenous people and their culture to find those answers. I also believe in meditation and sound and vibrational healing and music as being a part of stress release and healing. Different birthing positions from all around the world, from many different traditions, so that I have that to offer um, my clients and my patients. And then, of course, I also offer spiritual consulting. And it's not spiritual consulting based on my practice. I believe that you have to go to the people and help them through their process in their belief system. So, and I teach those things as well.
Okay. So going from there to you do a lot of things like a lot of women, sisters, we're just all into everything.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of your workshops. Can
Mhm.
give us a little teaser about what your workshops are, because I was interested, especially one that I think is just so neat is self-love,
Mhm.
self-care. It sounds so very simple, but so many people are not and do not know how to just have self-love for who they are. Regardless of how you look, not all of us are going to be the 36, 24, 36, 124 pounds either, right? But the thing is also how to love and care for yourself. So I'm very interested, and I'm certain the viewers are interested in the types of workshops, and kind of tease us a little bit about what those are.
Well, first of all, when I was 36, 24, 36, that brick house, I was not 124 pounds. Okay.
Okay.
I just want to put that out there. Um, One of the first rules of the universe is to know thyself. And I teach on that concept. And I believe that as healers, or, we really can't heal anybody, but we can be a witness to and help to activate and support somebody process in their healing. We have to be well ourselves. And that doesn't mean we have to be perfect. And I must say, almost every workshop that I now teach is because I needed it at the time and either couldn't find it or went through a process and said, I wish they had talked about this or that. Self love, self care. I have two different workshops. And again, COVID has definitely affected that because we can't go out into nature, which is what I like to do. Um, Especially dealing with women and women of color in particular, and our body issues and our fears to communicate with what's really going on, and not just have a venting session, but actually learning tools and using those tools during that time to see what works for us, because not everybody can use the same tools. So I take a small group and we walk through our trauma and see what is working for us. And it's a beautiful thing. Healers healing healers, activators healing activators is very important. We fill up so much and we have to empty some out, not all of it. Or if we do empty it all, we have to bring it back at least halfway so that we're not dry or that we're not overflowing. And these are one of the things that I like to witness and be a part of helping establish in individuals. But you got to be real.
Okay. Yeah, not honestly, nothing ever works when you know got this facade,
Mhm.
that's on. Because if you're really wanting to get better, you're really wanting to heal yourself, you're really wanting to move forward in life. You can't walk around with your head up in the cloud and not deal with the issues at hand. So I'm really
Well,
happy.
you know what? We have a hard time being vulnerable.
Uh-huh.
And vulnerability is very, very important to self-healing, you
Yes.
know. And like I said, you can still be a nurse, you can be a midwife, you can be a doula, you could be obviously the president and have drama.
Right.
Okay. We don't talk about that, but I just had to put that out there,
Right. Okay.
But there needs to be an outlet. And unfortunately, leaders cannot find their full outlet in their community
Yes.
because we are such humanitarians that we sacrifice our own healing
Mm-hmm.
for that of others, our families, you
Yes.
know,
Yes.
our husbands and wives, our children, our neighbor, the person who is sick, across town. We're always running and giving. I spend more time on the phone than I ever had before COVID because
Mm-hmm.
people are in a space where they can talk and they're just rambling because
Right.
they've never been in a space where somebody just has time to sit there and listen you
Right.
know. So taking a small group of women that I try to match up personality wise um, into a space, and now I'm doing it on. I'm getting real good at Zoom, and I'm just about to put up an online course. Um, we're able to discuss these things
Mm-hmm.
at the same level. There's no titles. We're just women.
Right.
you know, and what is your experience? And we hold that space. And I don't care if you get mad at me today and walk off and we never talk. I'm going to
Right.
keep, because that's an issue too. But
Right.
I'm going to hold that space for you. I'm never going to divulge your information. And that's really important, you know. And that has an effect, just going back to infertility.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that has a major effect on our infertility,
Right. Right. I saw a post earlier today, and it's one that I've talked about on my podcast, is that it's not your secret to tell. If somebody shares things with you, you fall out, you stop being friends, and then you go out and you spread all
Right,
the person has shared with you. And it really does have a profound effect. And that also causes, especially I think among women, why they're so distrustful of one another,
right,
because they have had this experience. And it's really and truly just about integrity. Even if somebody's blowing off steam or they're upset about something, they could be just blasting and just saying stuff. How many times have people said stuff out of anger, just blowing off steam?
right.
But it's not your story to tell, to go back and tell somebody else what was said. And I think that that's one of the things that across the board has to be understood, just has
Right.
to be understood, you
It
know.
is. It's very important. And when we talk about our overall health and well being,
Hmm.
being able to release in smaller groups like that, and
Right.
then taking that, because my thing is each one teaches one. So I want to give a workshop. And yes, it's
Hmm.
part of how I make my money, it's part of how I survive. I got to eat too, and I
Right.
got to stay healthy and take care of myself. So I
Hmm.
took a wonderful course by Queen Jazz, who is one of the directors at Cornerstone, called Business Essentials. Put that out there for her because it changed my life.
Okay.
It changed my life because I'm
Yeah.
like, well, I didn't account for vacation. Am I supposed to do that? I didn't know I could do that.
Right.
Um, because it's sort of like a self business, and it's a woman's business, so nobody really cares.
Right. Right.
And it's not a Forbes, so we're doing it. It's a community business. And I always tell people in my community, don't come to me when a doctor says you got 3 weeks to live and expect a miracle. Then get one. Then don't pay me, talk about me, and leave.
Okay.
You know,
I hear you.
you
I
know.
hear you. Absolutely. But look, we're going to take a really quick break. And when we come back, one of the things that I want you to do is also is to just give us some parting thoughts as relates to the fertility piece for those who are looking to get pregnant, the infertility piece, but also how people can probably get more information or research more about midwives for those who have watched the show and said, hey, I think I need to connect with a midwife. And so that might be you. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
3 months ago, there weren't enough masks. We were desperately sourcing from all over the world. People were making face coverings from scarves, bandanas, and bits of fabric. Now there are plenty of masks, but some people don't want to wear them. Come on. Mask up, America.
Hey world, I have a quick message. It's about safe driving. All right, let's go. Anytime you're driving, have the seatbelt buckled tight, both hands on the wheel and your phone out of sight. When not in your hand trying to text somebody back, because if you do, your car might get smacked. The moral of the story, just put your phone down. The people on the road will stay safe and sound. Put your phone down, put your phone down. People on the road will stay safe and sound. Yeah.
All right. If you're just joining us, let me just say you got to go back and listen to the entire show. And what you can do, it's always up on YouTube, Facebook, Periscope. But we have been talking with Queen Mother Oloyo Tahimba Ford, who is a registered nurse, a midwife, a doula, a monitrice. And we've just been talking about women's health care, the role of a midwife. And she's just shared so much with us that what midwives do. So for some of you, you may be saying, look, I just need to talk to somebody who can kind of calm me down, get my stress level down. Because sometimes people are trying to get pregnant and their stress level is so high. So you may have gotten something from today that might encourage you to look at a midwife. So I'm going to bring Queen Mother back in. And one of the things before we went to the show, went for a break on the show, was to ask, what are some parting words that you would have for our viewers and for those who are possibly looking at getting more information about a midwife?
Oh, yes. I love this part because it's very important for everybody. Anybody who is trying to get pregnant, wants to get pregnant, whether you have fertility or infertility problems, it doesn't matter. You should have a coach, a friend, someone that can work with you and help you with your stress factor. And that would be a doula and or a midwife. And most insurances will cover licensed midwives. Insurances at the present time do not cover doulas. However, there are many organizations and groups that help raise money for people who want to use these services. And all you have to do is call your local doula area if you're out of town. And the Bay Area has many. You can get in touch with me and I can help research in your area who's available, what their reputation is, and turn you over to the appropriate person for you. It is affordable and it's very much necessary for a healthy, loving experience when going through the most stressful process of anybody's life.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. Well, I want to thank you so much for being on the show. And I want to thank all of you who've tuned in. Be sure and share alike. But we here at You Didn't Get the Memo, we're always grateful for you that tuned in because we strive to provide you with relevant mainstream information. So again, I want to thank our guest, Oloyo, aka Queen Mother, for being our guest today. I want you to be sure and tune in every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, for always another great episode of You Didn't Get the Memo. Next week, my guest will be Katura Bryant, and she will be discussing the Zola experience. And I'm not going to even tell you what that is. You're going to have to tune in to find out what that is. Now, I'm going to ask you to be sure and follow me on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. And I'm going to say to you, if you didn't take anything away from today's show, then it's you who didn't get the memo. Remember this, that the quality of your life is actually determined by the decisions that you make. Until this time next week, I want you to stay safe, be well. I'm Gloria Bailey Ray, your host. Peace, blessings.